the NAACP. So that leadership change, I find, is somewhat of a dramatic paradigm shift, not just for the NAACP, but also potentially really for the entire civil rights movement, and also in terms of the state of black political and advocacy leadership. Dr. Brooks had just started being president of the NAACP. I mean, it wasn't a long time ago that he was put in that position, that he was tasked to lead that organization. So, his termination as firing is really, sort of significant in the sense that he was there for a relatively short period of time. Also, there was a dramatic shift that took place when he replaced Ben Jealous, the previous president of the NAACP. But a couple of real quick thoughts there. In talking to a lot of folks, one, they're thinking about, okay, well, what does this mean for the future of black political leadership, black advocacy leadership, particularly in this day and age? And the NAACP has, it's hinted at publicly, and it is saying, quietly that, we needed someone who's a bit more aggressive in this age of Trump. So what does that mean? Another thing, too, is I'm hearing folks who are saying that, we would have liked to have seen Dr. Brooks out, or NAACP leadership in general, but particularly the person at the top being out on the streets more. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know. I just keep hearing that being said over and over again, that they didn't see Dr. Brooks out in the streets enough, that they need sort of a multi-dimensional black political leader, someone who's on the streets, who's also in the boardrooms, and who's also in the political strategy war rooms as well, kind of doing these they need like a multifaceted, kind of multitasking political public policy advocacy type leader, or for that particular type of organization. So, another one last point too is I'm starting to hear a lot of grumbling about the NAACP not picking a woman to be in that leadership slot. That now folks are starting to talk about that. They're saying, hey, is this now time to put a sister in that leadership position for the NAACP? So that's kind of what I'm hearing. A lot of people are watching that very closely and wondering what this means for that organization.
I think that my view is I think that there's always a lot of talk going on whenever you have a change. In the 26 years of NASHAC's network, which is not even just about a quarter of the history of the NAACP, I've seen 6 or 7 presidents of the NAACP. And I've seen the questions raised after Ben Hooks left, then after him Ben Chavis left, then Kwesi Nkrumah, then on and on and on. Ben Jealous, as you said, Bruce Gordon, then Ben Jealous, then Brooks. And one of the things, and there's been young. I mean, Ben Jealous was a millennial. He was 35. There's been old. Ben Hooks was old. I don't think it's an age thing, and I don't think it's about being more aggressive. I mean, I think that Dr. Brooks was arrested in the offices of Sessions protesting.
He was.
When all of us protested his confirmation. I think the legitimate question is on the gender question. Is it time for a woman? I also think that one of the things that I have noted, and I've said this to you in private, is when people talk about, well, we want to see a guy like Brooks out there more. A lot of the young activists that were out there I haven't seen since Trump got elected. And I mean, I don't have to call their names, but we've seen the Jones case in Florida. We've seen the pleading guilty in North Charleston. We saw the Tulsa case. We saw the Baton Rouge case. And a lot of the young activists, some of which sites like The Root made known, we haven't seen any of them in any of those places. Nowhere. And I mean, not one time. And the only black gathering I've seen is what we did in January when Nan called everybody together the week of the inauguration. The other big marches have been the Women's March, which was not black, and the immigration marches. So I think if we're going to start evaluating legacy organizations, let's evaluate all of these groups. and say, wait a minute, the ones that y'all said was the non-establishment group has been non-visible. And I think that if we're going to hold people accountable, and we should hold everybody accountable. And I think that we've not seen that. And that's why sometimes a lot of people get frustrated because people come up and say, I'm the new thing, and then they just disappear. I cannot tell you how many times we have gotten engaged in movements. People come along and say, we're going to be more aggressive. We ain't going to take it no more. And we don't hear from them 6 months later after their friends write blogs about them. And they go on off. And I think that we've got to start holding accountable too.
No, you're absolutely right, Reverend, because, resilience and consistency is much more important than branding and being seen. And I think that a lot of folks have, we talked about this before in the show, a lot of folks have made that mistake of sort of using social media, using all these great branding platforms as a substitute for real, tangible advocacy, political leadership, and strategy. So I think that there's a lot of that going on. So, you do have some, you don't have to name names, but, you have some folks who have gone on to sort of greener pastures. They've actually benefited in a big way, personally, individually.
They've joined the establishment. They've joined the establishment they was fighting.
Exactly. That they were fighting. But, they also have to know that they have to maintain that consistency. That's and that, it's not just about, like, being out there on, there is this sort of black protest litmus test that certain, millennial-aged Black Lives Matter protesters and others have, forced or imposed upon black advocacy and political leadership. And I think sometimes a bit unfairly. And I really think that litmus test, and it's very real, it has to be reevaluated. And because what's happening is that you're seeing a lot of good leaders who are effective, and maybe being out in the streets, as they've suggested, that's why I was saying, I don't know what that means, but, maybe they are very effective behind the scenes, or maybe they're more effective in the halls of the Senate where Dr. Brooks was arrested than they are out on the streets of Baltimore, being seen. Sometimes
many that were on the streets end up going in the suites, and it's all right because it's them, and that's not all right. All I'm saying is, even if you're going to have a litmus test, hold everybody to the same litmus test. And that is what, and when you don't, then people should have the same courage and integrity to say that. Well, wait a minute, I criticized so-and-so for this. I got to now call you on it too, and that's not about jumping on anybody, because we've all made mistakes in careers. That's about being accountable, because then that's why others will take you less seriously, because they'll say, wait a minute, that's personal, because you're not using the same standards. When I look at the fact that we have younger members of Congress, but it took a Maxine Waters and Elijah Cummings, two who have been there a long time, older than me, that are the ones that's bringing the fire to Donald Trump. So that's why this can't be easily done by just age and newness, because Mia Love is new. She's a Republican black woman in Congress who agrees with Trump. So that has got newness doesn't mean that necessarily is the litmus test you want to use.
No, you're absolutely right. You look at, Congressional Black Caucus right now is being overseen or supervised by what you would call young leadership, Congressman Cedric Richmond out of Louisiana. But Cedric Richmond is his style.